So the journal that we have picked for our research assignment is called Muscle Activation During Various Hamstring Exercises. We got this journal from the Journal of Strength and Conditioning Research. This specific journal was written in June of 2014. It's all about the activation of the hamstrings in a series of 4 exercises. As we already know, the hamstring muscles include the biceps femoris, semitendinosus, and semimembranosus. The exercises that were being investigated included the glute ham raise, good mornings, RDLs, as well as the prone leg curl. The whole purpose of this study was to determine the amount of involvement of the hamstring muscles during the series of the 4 exercises that they picked. It was also designed to quantify the activity of the biceps femoris, semitendinosus, and semimembranosus, and then the surrounding stabilizing muscles, which include the gluteus medius, a subdivision of the erector spinae, as well as the medial gastrocnemius. They say that the 4 exercises that they picked are known as the ones to activate the hamstrings and surrounding muscles the most. That's why they picked them, obviously. But then they came to realize that not even all the hamstrings were being activated within the exercises. It was only either the biceps femoris would be activated, or it'd be the semitendinosus and semimembranosus. So, yeah.
So I'll be telling you how this research was conducted for the study. So during the first session, the 12 men had to get measured for like their body fat percentage, their body mass index, and their height via 3 skin folds. So those weren't told in the study, but we know that there were 3 sites that were measured for their body fat percentages. So during the first session, they were also tested on their 1RM on the glute ham raise and the good morning exercises. And during those times, between exercises, they were giving 10 minutes to recover from their 1RM. So they would do it max out, and then they were given 10 minutes, and they were going to max out on the other exercise. And then during the second session, they were tested on their 1RM on the RDL and the leg curl. And also, the leg curl was performed on a machine. So in the third and the fourth session, all 12 subjects had 2 trials at 85% of the 1RM for all exercises, in which EMG and joint angles were obtained. They also had a specific warm-up that had to be done. It was the same as the first and the second session, so it was just performed before all sessions. And it was similar to all that, just to prepare them for their 1RM. So the study also declared that they were allowed 1 repetition before the 2 experimental repetitions for their 1RMs, just to ensure that the sensors were going to sense the muscle activity. And they also said that the subjects were given 2 to 3 minutes of rest between exercises, just to make sure that fatigue was minimized, and then that it was reducing the warm-up effects of the warm-up. So just to make sure that they weren't too cold and that they were properly warmed up but not too tired to perform the next 1RM that they were supposed to do. So between sessions, they were given 2 to 5 days between sessions to properly recover, just because it's really taxing on the nervous system because they're doing 1RMs, and to properly sense the muscle activations and determine muscle activation during that experiment. All the sensors were placed on the right side, so on the erector spinae, the glute medius, the semitendinosus, semimembranosus, and bicep femoris, and also the gastrocnemius muscle. So the study also mentioned that 2 sensors were placed on each of those muscles that I just named. So they were placed on the origin and the assertion, just to make sure that the same fibers of the muscles were recruited during the activation of the exercise. And they also mentioned that each sensors were traced with a permanent marker just to make sure that they were placed at the same place each and every session and for each of the subjects. So before all the placements of the sensors on the body parts of the right side of the body, so all the subjects have to be shaven and also scraped with sandpaper and also cleaned with alcohol just before the placement. So they didn't say why they were doing that, but I'm guessing because it was easier to place sensors and get a better muscle activation. And they also mentioned that a laboratory man-made rotary potentiometer was strapped to the lateral side just to determine the joint position during the active movement of the exercise they were doing. And it also allowed them to determine and do an analysis of eccentric and concentric actions during the movement. So after the 4 experimental sessions, the main findings of this study was that the semitendinosus muscle is it's greatly more activated during these 4 exercises that were conducted during the experiment in the bicep femoris. And they also mentioned that the hamstring activity was greater during the RDL and the glute ham raise. So therefore, coaches or athletes who seek to have a great musculature or greatly involve their hamstrings in an activity or an exercise should do the RDL and the glute ham raise.
So for the applicability of this research paper and how it kind of goes into how we can use all this information into the fitness industry, this is going to be super important when it comes to personal training, in my opinion. So if a client comes to you, you assess them and you realize let's say they're very quad dominant. Well, chances are that her hamstrings are going to need to be reinforced and strengthened. So with this research paper, they talk about a bunch of different exercises that you can use to strengthen the hamstrings. So in the research paper, they use different examples such as an RDL, a good morning, a glute ham raise, and a leg curl. And then they're comparing the different muscles in the hamstring. So more of the gluteus medius, semitendinosus, the bicep femoris, the erector spinae muscles, etc. So while doing these tests, they kind of learned that the better ones that you can use to reinforce your hamstrings and get a better result and a quicker result are going to be the Romanian deadlift, so the RDL, as well as a glute ham raise. Those exercises in particular should be something that every personal trainer should consider putting in someone's program, since these were the exercises that had the most consistent progression and the best results. But with that research, that brings me to my follow-up question, which was, while reading it, did I have any questions about the research paper? Did I think that anything was off? And honestly, I find this paper is very straightforward, really to the point, and it was very simple to read. The only question I had was pretty much, how do these exercises compare to a compound lift, such as a deadlift or a squat, so one of like the big 3 powerlifting exercises. Obviously, you're not isolating the hamstrings while doing, let's say, a deadlift or a squat, but they're going to be very, very active. But are they going to be active enough to kind of balance the weaknesses between the hamstring or the quads, or is actually doing a isolation exercise such as an RDL going to be way more beneficial for the actual client themselves? Besides that, the research paper is very straightforward, and I had no other questions.